asking, what is the best Quentin Tarantino movie? Do you look back on your career and say, this is the defining movie of my life?
Well, it kind of depends on when you ask me. In a moment I could say, oh, Kill Bill. Another one I could say something else. But I really do think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my best movie.
They call him the ultimate film geek, but Quentin Tarantino has always been cinema's greatest thief. The video store clerk who became the most quoted filmmaker of his generation, who turned pop culture obsession into high art and B-movie passion into Oscar gold. But when he talks about the films that shaped him, Tarantino doesn't sound like a director. He sounds like a true believer. I don't make movies to win awards. I make them to blow your mind. For Tarantino, cinema isn't just entertainment or even art. It's religion. And like all converts, his faith was forged in the temple of the grindhouse, the drive-in, the forgotten corners of film history where genre movies lived and died in glorious obscurity. The frames that rewired his brain, the directors who became his gods, the movies that didn't just influence his work, but became his DNA. From spaghetti westerns to screwball comedies, from paranoid thrillers to existential epics. Tarantino's 7 favorite films reveal more than technique. They reveal obsession, because you can learn filmmaking in school, but you can't learn love. And Tarantino's greatest skill isn't direction or dialogue, it's curated. Here comes Quentin Tarantino naming his 7 favorite movies.
What do you think is the best movie you've seen in 2015?
It'd have to be the Mad Max movie, Fury Road.
The films that taught him how to steal like an artist. 7. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. 1966 Leone didn't just make westerns. He made operas with guns. And for young Tarantino, watching Clint Eastwood stare down Lee Van Cleef in that final cemetery showdown, it was the first time he understood that silence could be more violent than screaming. When you have to shoot, shoot, don't talk. The story was mythology disguised as a genre. 3 gunslingers hunt for buried gold during the Civil War, each representing a different kind of morality. But Leone's genius wasn't in the plot, it was in the patience. The way he could stretch a glance into eternity, make a close-up feel like a prayer, turn waiting into warfare. Tarantino called it his masterclass in controlled tension. Every standoff in Kill Bill, every Mexican standoff in Reservoir Dogs, every moment when his characters size each other up before the violence explodes, Leone filtered through a video store education. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly taught me that movies could be both epic and intimate, that the camera could make gods out of cowboys. The film's 3-hour runtime wasn't indulgence, it was worship. Leone understood that great cinema doesn't rush toward its climax, it earns it, frame by frame, beat by beat, until the final gunshot feels like destiny. 6. Blowout, 1981. De Palma made a movie about a sound engineer who accidentally records a political assassination. But for Tarantino, Blowout was really about something else entirely. The artist was obsessive, the way creativity can become a form of madness, and how the act of looking too closely can destroy you. I'm a sound man. I record sound. John Travolta's Jack Terry isn't just hunting for evidence. He's hunting for truth in a world built on lies. De Palma's camera becomes complicit, splitting screens, following multiple characters, turning voyeurism into an art form. The film was Hitchcock by way of Watergate. Paranoia thriller meets media critique. Tarantino first saw it during his video store days and watched it obsessively. Here was a filmmaker who wasn't ashamed of genre, who could take a B-movie premise and turn it into something profound without losing the pulp energy that made it alive. You see Blowout in the split-screen sequences of Kill Bill, in the way Death Proof plays with film grain and scratches. De Palma taught Tarantino that movies could be about movies without being pretentious. That style wasn't the enemy of substance. Blowout showed me that the best thrillers aren't about what happens, they're about how we see what happens. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't the conspiracy, it's caring too much about the truth. 5. His Girl Friday, 1940. Hawks didn't just direct dialogue, he conducted it like a jazz symphony. And for Tarantino, watching Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell trade verbal punches at machine gun speed, it was the moment he realized that words could move faster than bullets and hit twice as hard. The last man who said that to me was Archie Leach. just a week before he cut his throat. The story was newspaper noir wrapped in screwball energy. An editor tries to win back his ex-wife and star reporter by trapping her in one last story. But Hawks' genius was in the rhythm, the way characters talked over each other, interrupted, and finished each other's sentences like a verbal ballet. Tarantino called it his graduate course in dialogue construction. The overlapping conversations in Pulp Fiction, the way his characters can turn small talk into philosophy, and philosophy into small talk, that's Hawks filtered through video store wisdom. His Girl Friday taught me that dialogue could be music, that the right rhythm could make exposition feel like poetry. The film moved at breakneck pace but never felt rushed. Every line landed because Hawks understood that great dialogue isn't about what people say, it's about how they say it. The speed wasn't showing off, it was survival. In Hawks' world, if you couldn't keep up verbally, you were already dead. Fourth, Taxi Driver, 1976. Scorsese made a movie about loneliness that felt like a punch to the solar plexus. And for Tarantino, watching Travis Bickle descend into his own private hell on the neon-lit streets of New York, it was the first time he saw that anti-heroes didn't just make good characters. They made the best ones. The story was simple on the surface. A Vietnam vet drives a cab through the urban decay of 1970s Manhattan, his isolation curdling into violence. But Scorsese's genius was in making us complicit, forcing us to see the world through Travis's warped perspective until his madness almost made sense. Tarantino was working at a video store when he first saw it, and it changed his understanding of what protagonists could be. Here was a character who wasn't likable, wasn't heroic, wasn't even particularly sympathetic, but he was magnetic. You see Travis Bickle in every Tarantino antihero who thinks violence is the solution to moral problems. The bride's quest for revenge, Django's righteous fury, even the bastard's brutal justice, they all carry DNA from that lonely cab driver. Taxi Driver taught me that the most interesting characters are the ones who scare you, that empathy doesn't require approval. Because sometimes the most honest stories are about the worst people. 3. Rio Bravo, 1959. Hawks made a Western about a sheriff, a drunk, a kid, and a cripple holding a jail against impossible odds. But for Tarantino, Rio Bravo was really about something more precious, the hangout movie. The art of watching interesting people be interesting together, even when nothing much happens. I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. The plot was deliberately simple. John Wayne's Sheriff Chance has to hold a murderer until the marshal arrives, while the dead man's brother brings an army to break him out. But Hawks wasn't interested in the plot. He was interested in character, in the way people reveal themselves through small gestures, casual conversations, the spaces between the action. Tarantino called it his favorite movie to rewatch, and you can see why. Dean Martin's alcoholic deputy dude fighting his way back to competence. Ricky Nelson's Colorado, young and cocky but reliable when it counts. Walter Brennan's Stumpy, guarding the jail with cranky devotion. These weren't archetypes, they were people. Rio Bravo taught me that the best scenes are just people talking. That character is more important than plot. That audiences will watch anything if they care about who they're watching. You see Rio Bravo and Reservoir Dogs, grown men sitting around arguing about Madonna and tipping. You feel it in The Hateful Eight, strangers trapped together, revealing themselves through conversation. Hawks understood that the most entertaining thing in movies isn't explosions or car chases, it's personality, because sometimes the best action is no action at all. 2. Abbott and Costello, Meet Frankenstein, 1948. Most directors cite Citizen Kane or The Rules of the Game as formative influences. Tarantino cites two guys in baggy suits running from movie monsters. And for a filmmaker who would spend his career blending genres like a mad scientist, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein was the perfect laboratory experiment. I'm a bad boy. The film shouldn't have worked. Horror and comedy are natural enemies, like oil and water, like art and commerce. But somehow, watching Bud Abbott and Lou Costello stumble through Universal's monster movie universe, encountering Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolfman, it became something magical. Pure entertainment without shame or pretension. Tarantino discovered it during late-night TV marathons as a kid, and it rewired his understanding of what movies could do. Here was a film that took horror seriously enough to be scary and comedy seriously enough to be funny, without either canceling out the other. The monsters weren't parodies, they were the real universal creatures. The laughs weren't cheap, they came from character and situation. You see Abbott and Costello in every Tarantino film that refuses to stay in one genre lane. From Dusk Till Dawn's vampire pivot, Kill Bill's genre-hopping odyssey, even the way Inglourious Basterds treats World War II like a spaghetti western. The film taught him that audiences could handle tonal shifts if you committed fully to each moment. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein showed me that movies could be everything at once. That genre wasn't a prison, but a playground. The film's secret weapon wasn't the monsters or the laughs. It was the audacity to believe that pure fun was a legitimate artistic goal, that entertainment didn't need to apologize for entertaining. 1. The Searchers' 1956 Ford made a movie about a racist searching for his kidnapped niece. Tarantino saw a blueprint for everything he would ever want to say about America, heroism, and the stories we tell ourselves to sleep at night. The Searchers wasn't just his favorite film. It was his obsession, his North Star, his proof that the most powerful movies are the ones that make you uncomfortable. That'll be the day. The story seemed like classic Western mythology. Ethan Edwards returns from the Civil War to find his family massacred and his niece taken by Comanche raiders. But Ford's genius was in the poison he mixed with the medicine. Ethan wasn't a hero, he was a monster with a badge. His quest driven more by racial hatred than familial love. Tarantino first saw it as a teenager and couldn't stop thinking about it. Here was a film that worshipped and demolished its own genre simultaneously, that made you root for a protagonist who disgusted you, that used the language of heroism to tell a story about vengeance. You see the Searchers in every Tarantino revenge narrative, from Django's righteous fury to The Bride's methodical hunt. But more than that, you see it in his understanding that the most compelling characters are contradictions, that moral complexity makes better drama than moral clarity. The Searchers taught me that movies could lie and tell the truth at the same time, that the most dangerous stories are the most beautiful ones. Ford shot it in Monument Valley, that cathedral of American mythology, but filled it with doubt. The landscape promised redemption, the story delivered damnation. And for a filmmaker who would spend his career examining American violence, it was the perfect education in the power of subversive storytelling. And there it is. 7 films that didn't just teach Tarantino how to make movies, they taught him how to love them. Not the respectable choices, but the passionate ones. The films that proved cinema could be church and grindhouse, art and entertainment all at once. Now you know his influences. What are yours?